Good afternoon. Tom Kaczynski here. Welcome to 2024. A Happy New Year to you all. Lord's blessing be upon you. Haven't been on for a while. Been busy working. Been busy thinking. Been busy reading. You might hear the wife in the background here upstairs taking care of a couple things. TCB, right? And hanging out with our rooster Emmett. So if you hear an occasional bird go, our buddy's got a little bit of a breathing issues, so we're letting him take it easy today. Fortunately, it's not too cold up here. But anyway, welcome to the program. And today, what I want to talk about is I'm going to talk about the ladders of mobility being kicked out from underneath you and underneath me. And I'm poor enough that I can kind of talk about this in a way that most people who are poor maybe aren't so educated or are educated in ways that are not so useful. Whereas, for many years, Dana and I have lived a very simple life, as much as we could manage anyway, between the health issues that we, both struggle with and the various things we've had to overcome, which I'm grateful for in this one sense, that, when you're near to the ground, you don't have to fall too far, and we've kind of kept our feet really grounded. But for a lot of people who didn't have those options or didn't have those choices or that foresight, I think things are going very badly. And I think there is a divergent narrative that needs to be talked about. So we'll cover that today. If you like the program, support the Venmo's CVCPRV and P.O. Box 343, Eagle Lake, Maine, 04739. Always welcome when you guys have support, and do keep in touch. Always love to hear from you guys, read the comments, and respond, and we're not hard to find. Okay, so I want to get into this a little bit because you see a lot of people who are talking at the high level say the economy's doing great, inflation's under control, it's not going nuts, and then you go grocery shopping. So I went shopping at the local grocery, and I do a lot of the shopping because of health and disability issues, that Dana has to deal with. Even though she's an excellent cook, certainly not taking anything away from her, but I do the shopping just the way it is. So I have a very good sense of pricing and where things are at. And now that we entered into the new year, I did my first grocery shopping in the new year and was greeted with prices across the board jumping yet another 10 to 20% across various items. I remember when I could get a green onions for $2 not that long ago, and now it's $1.50. And you go through the store, and the store is interesting. The store has shelves that are largely full. Although it's interesting as well that you see a number of items that are being marked down and discounted because they can't sell them. And why can't they sell them? Well, people don't have the money to buy them, and they're charging too much for them, and nothing seems to be stopping this because that's just the price of doing business. Well, electricity's up. That's just the price of doing business. Rents are up. That's just the price of doing business. The only thing that isn't up is gas prices, and the only reason that's not up is because, A, Biden emptied the reserve that we have so that if something terrible does happen, you won't be able to get any, and B, no one's doing any economic business, and how can they? Try going to eat out these days, do you want to pay? I was reading Five Guys, I think. It costs people to get 2 burgers, $32. Now, we don't have Five Guys. Isn't that crazy? 2 burgers and 2, what was it? 2 sodas and I think a large fry. I think that's what it was, $32. It's absolutely crazy. Even McDonald's is into the 2 digits now. And if you want to eat at home, which is how a lot of us got around this, and we have for years, you can't afford to do it anymore. At least not the way you used to, because meat's expensive, food's expensive, and the money you have doesn't go as far. So all of this is part of a larger theme, and it's a war on the middle class and to put the poor into destitution. And you're being set to be degraded. I mean, you can watch the things, the Agenda 2030 stuff, you're going to feed you cricket proteins and all these other things. And just so you know, if you don't, people have done it far better than I have. But chitin is not something you want to be consuming in large quantities. A lot of problems will come from that. And I highly recommend that you do your due diligence on that. And also, maybe learn the ingredients on the label. Watch out for those appeal fruits to have those GMO covers. If you ever need a test, there's 4 different. All right, so Dana tells me there's 4 different insects. 2 types of crickets.
I think.
Is there a mosquito one? I read there was a mosquito one they were starting somewhere.
Mealworms.
Crunchy mealworms. Look, I would struggle to feed my chickens that stuff. I mean, chickens do like mealworms. I will say that. But it's absolutely crazy. And I just want to connect some different dots for you. Like another thing I was reading about. All right, something that you wouldn't necessarily connect, but I do. Used cars. They are changing the rules on cars and making cars unaffordable. Why? Because if you can't have cars, you can't travel. If you can't travel and you're stuck in a bad spot, guess what you are? You are stuck. Can't fly anywhere. Gotta keep the carbon down. Can't drive anywhere. Gotta keep everyone safe. And now they're having those mandates to put in, what is it I was going to say? They have the mandates as of, I think it's as of 26, that every car has to have a built-in shut-off switch. Well, I'm sure that won't be used for nefarious means, right? Who was the guy? Michael Hastings, wasn't that the guy? The guy who got killed, it's like 10, 15 years now. His car goes out of control. It's been a long time, but
Yeah.
this game, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And people are bunkering down, but I'm telling you, you can't bunker down enough to get around this. You can't fix this. And now we have AI jumping in. The age of AI. Okay, great. What's going to happen when AI starts taking white-collar jobs? Because it's already happening. I mean, we can cheer, and I'm happy to see DEI be on the ropes a little bit, although I don't believe it. I'll believe it when Disney starts making movies that are watchable again, right? But that's a good barometer, right? Um, Dana laughed. But we've reached the point where now we see that people just aren't going to be able to afford to live. And I don't know what you do. I mean, if you own your property, you got a shot for a little bit. But even then, they'll probably tax you all with the school districts. And so what I mean by this, and what I'm observing, and my plea to you, even though I feel like I'm speaking upon deaf ears, is this country, this civilization, such as it remains, as the techno futurists get a hold of it, the transhumanists, right? They don't want a lot of people in it. Why do you think they let the border be open? What was I reading last month? I think they said 300,000 illegals came here. So just putting context for you, more illegals entered this country than citizens were born that month, I think. If I remember right, I saw someone had shared that fact. And that's where the great replacement. I mean, we're past the great replacement. We're at the great saturation now. And why? Because they want a war of all against all, and then they come in magically to pick up the pieces? Well, we're going to head that way because there's not going to be enough resources. Or maybe you have it be like Orwellian London, Airstrip 1. Have it where, all the pros are just kind of fighting to stick around, and the few people who are trying to survive can't. I read an interesting fact to that extent, and this will get to the point of something I want to say, and I implore you to consider. In Canada, where immigration has been crazy from East Asia and South Asia, East Asia primarily into British Columbia, South Asia into Ontario, the native born Canadians are leaving. Some are leaving for Europe, some are leaving for Southeast Asia or East Asia, some are leaving for Latin America, but people are leaving. And I would encourage you to consider that now, because you know the political situation. You don't need me to tell you what's happening here. And, it's a shame, actually, if you had a leader who was willing to do something, but we have Trump. And Trump is the Pied Piper who everyone loves to fight for. So he will lead people nowhere. You can really see this. He was talking about how they're going to build a big FBI headquarters in D.C. I don't like Vivek, but I mean, he says certain things that are smart. But the one thing he said that was smart was get rid of the FBI. Yeah, you got to get rid of a lot of this. You have to get back to basics, and we're not going to do it. Instead, what are we doing? We're getting drawn into a war in the Red Sea over key shipping. Then Europe will be completely out of energy. So our stuff will be shipped over there. The Russians don't want to play ball. The Chinese don't want. Why would they? And look at Ukraine. They won't even let men lead the country. That could happen here. You think it can't happen in America? If you're still the person who says America's different, where were you during COVID? I tell you what, something changed when Obama got elected. Put it to you that simple. And the Bushes and Clintons were terrible and they were corrupt, but it was an old game. This is a new game. This is an uglier game. You are fighting, they call wokeism a mind virus, and I think they're right. I really do. It's this idea of forced equality, and it's something where they're going to take everything from you and they're going to take away your ability to exist outside of their definitions. Because they don't want you to fight them. They don't. And, we've gotten to the point where it may be too late for that unless you want to take down the whole system. And if you want to go down that path, you have a very long, difficult road ahead of you. I'll just put it that way. A better road is to find people who have agency and talent and get the hell out of Dodge. It's no secret. I've told you guys for years, we're heading for Argentina, God willing. And I'm hoping here in a few months to take a trip down, check it out. Milei's been doing some good work down there. Do I like his stance on Israel? No, I hate it. But That's politics. I do like that they're getting rid of a bunch of things down there that caused a lot of people a lot of problems for a long time, and my friends down there, by and large, like it too. They're optimistic, they're hopeful, and they're forgotten about. And thank God to be somewhere where you're not paid attention to, because in this world, do you want to be a target for attention? Do you want to sit in a jail cell because you pissed someone off by saying the wrong thing? And you can already see it. They're trying to do the whole, January 6th, terrible insurrection, blah, blah, blah. All in defense of democracy. Take people off the ballot in defense of democracy. Ban parties. The SPD in Germany trying to ban AFD. Why? Oh, you can't have right-wing parties. That's against democracy. Well, what does democracy mean? What does democracy mean? The voice of the people. Okay. So who is the voice of the people? The dictatorship or the proletariat? Same people we've been dealing for a pretty damn long time. But they're not attacking you politically. Not yet. They're hollowing you out economically. They broke the businesses during COVID. They set people against one another. They brought other people in to replace you. Even though, what's the argument? We need them for work? No, we don't. There's no jobs. We need them to keep our economy going? What, because the NGOs need somewhere to funnel and shuffle their money? It's disgusting. And I don't know how people still have pride in this country. I mean, I'm sorry. I know some of you are vets, some of you are law enforcement, some of you are seeing things, but wake the fuck up. And I'm sorry I had to curse, but some things needed to get through to people. The game is over. And they've built fences around us. And we can still hop over some of them. The year is 1946. You're living in East Germany, and the walls are being constructed electronically around you. In fact, I would highly recommend, if you are not familiar with that time in history, take some time, watch a documentary. I know everyone watches videos, no one reads damn books anymore, and learn about what happened in East Germany, how the Germans were suppressed and forced and gaslit into supporting a system that was against them. And in a lot of ways, they did a better job than the USSR. Credit what credit's due. Germans are industrious. You can't change that. Unless you make them Turks. They're on that. But we've reached the point now where, people get replaced. People get controlled. People get surveilled. And now we're going to have AI assist us with everything. Smartphones are ubiquitous. And I don't even have to get into the weird stuff. If you want me to get into the weird stuff, look at that video of the portal over Geneva. That's a weird one. Or there was this... Where was that laser? Do you remember where the green laser was? This crazy directed energy weapon. You see lightning just come out of the sky as a straight laser at a 45-degree angle.
Straight laser beam.
Yeah, it was a green laser beam. And we could go into all sorts of...
Started a storm.
Yeah, the storm started almost instantaneously. It's crazy. But people aren't ready to believe that level of stuff. So we'll just keep it simple. We'll keep it light, It's an afternoon. No one wants to get too crazy. But I don't have a lot to say because, frankly, you're not allowed to say the things that are true. Every algorithm works against you. And we live in an age, in a lot of ways, of a dead internet. You can't find good information on sites anymore. It's just not there. You're buried under the weight of various bots representing different interests and entities. And finding real people, that's been lost in the internet. And finding people in the real world would be cool, but you can't afford to put gas in your damn car. Or maybe you can. But you know what? It's not going to stop. And this is a compliance mechanism. The same way student loans was a compliance mechanism. That if you owe money and you're scared, if you're nervous, if you're in the middle, there are people who are too rich to care and too poor to know. I was never good at making money. I'm just not. That's the way it is. I should be, but I'm not. So, fine. I picked path 2, which in some ways is better. It's a Christian path, honestly. We help who we want to help. We don't go beyond our means. We live simply, and the mind and the internal is there. I got my books. I got my wife. Got chickens. What more can I ask for?
Murray.
I got Murray. Murray's the man. Murray, you got anything to add, buddy?
Or Brav.
I guess that's Murray's English accent. But I am frustrated. It's just, shopping is a misery at this point. It is. Going out is unpleasant. And I am sort of a shut-in at this point, but I don't necessarily want to be. And I know there are places where it's not this way. There are places where people have suffered and they've come together. And here people have suffered and it's come apart. And it's because we have elites who are psychopaths. I don't know what to tell you. Elites, controllers. There is an evil hand behind them. and it's not hard to see at this point. You know, John Doe 36, right? You can go through all the people who were hanging out on Epstein Island. And it's like, oh, they're surprised it comes out. Well, blackmail works well. That's why Mossad uses it. And we don't even talk about that anymore. The poor people in Gaza, or the people in Maui, or the people in East Palestine. We don't have time for disasters. And you know why we can't care? Because we're all too busy suffering ourselves. That's the truth. People's empathy becomes exhausted when misery becomes the source of life. And revolutions don't happen when people are poor and miserable because survival takes too much damn energy. It happens when there's an upwardly mobile elite or when people start starving. And who knows, we may go down that path. I mean, people think it's because of politics. People adapt to politics. Most people are not political. But they don't adapt to being hungry. Not really. Especially when some people aren't. Especially when some people get to rob places with impunity. That's going to become a bigger issue. You know, I even said it on my Twitter. I made a prediction for a trend in 2024 to continue. Political assassinations. It's a big thing. Israel's just going around knocking off everyone they can. They killed an Iranian general this week. They killed a Hamas member, leader in what's his name, in Lebanon. Okay, how would you feel if an American admiral got knocked off in Bethesda? Are the rules not the same? They should be. Or like low-level ministers. I mean, you know, I've studied enough of different parts of the world's politics, and this is what happens, because it's really about people fighting for control over certain networks, and it's not really about ideologies. Are there backgrounds to it? Yeah, sure. China has interests, the U.S. has interests, Russia has interests. There are no good guys in this. Because as people, we haven't developed very well. And now we have machines that are going to step in and do a lot for us. This is biblical. Yeah, and the only thing I can say that's good about the beast system is that one day the dragon will eat the whore. And I will actually probably enjoy that, and a lot of people will probably enjoy that. It's probably going to be a hard right-wing turn. They've been talking about that since Basel in 1897. You catch my drift. But these are the things that I think about, and I will say we've worked very hard. I've worked probably as hard this last year as any year I have to accomplish less, but yet it was enough, hopefully, to get done what we need to do and to get out of Dodge. And then to just watch. Because there's nothing you can do. The only thing this system has left as an option is to take everything down, with yourself included. And someone probably at some point will become desperate enough to at least take the chance. Lord knows the FBI goes out there and tries to encourage every opportunity for that to happen. I mean, isn't that what paid informants dream of, being able to foil a plot? Especially so much that they literally create it. Drain the swamp. Drain the swamp. DC has to go away. America has to reset to something that was like before World War II. And you know that ain't going to happen. But the dollar might break. And then what do you do when you can't buy or sell?
Right.
Well, you pray. That's true. But you know what's good to do too? Pray for guidance and maybe get out before it gets bad. And I hope people think about that. I know I think about it. I think we have this year. After next year, things will change. And the one thing I'm sure of is whoever wins, whatever happens, control will be asserted more and more upon you. And is a big war coming? Well, every country's spending a whole bunch of money on military now. So you can't justify the expenditure unless you're willing to use it. Yeah, that's right. We were watching that from Pennsylvania, actually. Huntington, Pennsylvania, a town I've been to. You know, they were shipping them out. These were people, you know, weekend warriors, shipping out for 9 months in the Red Sea. To go fight Somali pirates, you know. This isn't, you know, the shores of Tripoli. This is facing hypersonic missiles that will be dumped there by the Iranians, maybe the Russians, maybe the Chinese, who knows. Maybe the Israelis themselves. But you will see these things, or maybe American, maybe there are things from Afghanistan we left, maybe some of them that went up there, you know, some of the dumb ones, and what, to destroy global shipping, to destroy movement, because without movement, there's death. Think of a scene that's perfectly still. Actually, the definition of absolute zero is when nothing moves. It's so cold and nothing moves. I think it's, don't quote me on this, but I think it's negative 273.15 or something. That's the absolute coldest temperature. At that point, all motion stops. It ain't a cold winter, but it's a really cold winter. And that's what I worry about. And that's what I think about. So get right with the Lord. Absolutely. Get right with your family. Use the resources hopefully you've squirreled away over these years of us talking. And really think about how you want to play this long term. Stop making decisions for people who you see once a year, right? Who hold you down. I know a lot of people do that, but this is a test. I'm sharing this with someone. If COVID was a test to see who had the strength to not go into the system, I genuinely believe the austerity test coming now is a test of who has the foresight to get away from the system. Because I'll tell you the truth. There were a lot of people during COVID who made the right decision in terms of not doing anything in terms of the medical interventions because they were just stubborn pains. And they think they were brilliant just because they were obstinate. That was not the right play. The right play was to see what was happening, analyze, adjust, and attack. Get in an OODA loop. If you don't know what it is, look it up. OODA. What you need to do with this is the same thing. You're going to die for what? A country that hates you, that wants to replace you, that reviles you, where the leadership, none of them even say things that are important. They just pretend, they lie, they're marionettes. All of them, a pox on all their houses. You know, honestly, if someone came here to fight, I'd look at them as liberators. They probably wouldn't be. Because they're evil to their own people, too. I mean, I like the Russians a little better than the Chinese, and I like the Russians better than the Americans at this point. I don't like the Chinese. But this is where we are in the story. So, I don't say a lot because the trend lines are there, and the individual events, all it does is get you banned and blocked. But I continue to tell you the same thing I've been saying for a long time. Get yourself out of harm's way. If you can't leave or don't want to leave or whatever, fine. Do what you can. Stock what you can. But realize you're still going to be a target. And this place is an example waiting to be made. Don't be a part of it. All right? God bless each of you. I hope you're having a good day. That things are very well. Dana and I send our best wishes for you and the Lord's blessing and hope. Just want to say, Heavenly Father, just ask that you give us your wisdom for how to step in these perilous times. In Jesus' mighty name. All right. God bless each of you. Like I said, the Venmo, CVC, PRV, P.O. Box 343, Eagle Lake, Maine, 04739. Might do another show this weekend. I have a little bit of time, but I honestly don't know what I would even want to talk about. What's that? Yeah, I'll do all that. All right. God bless. Have a good one. Bye-bye.